My name is Nora Evans. I'm 27, and for 2 years I thought I knew exactly who Noah was. He was kind, dependable, and when he smiled at me across a crowded room, I felt like nothing in the world could touch us. Workdays blurred into weekends, laughter carried over dinners, and the kind of quiet intimacy we shared made me feel safe, almost invincible. But sometimes the first cracks appear in the places you least expect. Noah had friends, 3 women who, at first glance, seemed harmless. But beneath their laughter and brunch invitations, there was something calculating. Vanessa, 28, the ringleader, had been through more relationships than I could count, always dramatic, always orchestrating. Brittany, 26, engaged for years, but perpetually postponing her wedding, radiated judgment disguised as concern. And Madison, 29, recently divorced, carried her bitterness like armor, determined to make the world mirror her misery. They were inseparable. Brunches every week, group texts that never ended, trips scheduled months in advance. At first, I didn't mind. Noah and I had our own life, our own circle of friends, or so I thought. 6 months ago, subtle signs began. Small comments, disguised as casual chatter. Working late again? Must be nice to have so much freedom. I laughed it off at first. It was nothing. But then came the questions. Where was I? Who was I with? Could I send a picture? I complied, always smiling, always cooperative, but inside a knot began to tighten. Something was off. Then came brunch, a normal Sunday, but Noah arrived looking different. Concern etched across his face, his voice a low whisper. Nora, we need to talk. My stomach dropped. My heart started thrumming in a panic I couldn't control. Talk about what? I asked, forcing calm over the tremor in my voice. He hesitated. Are you seeing someone else? I blinked. My mind scrambled. Seeing someone else? Me? With Noah? What? No. Why would you think that? Vanessa, Noah explained later, had noticed things. The way I laughed, the way I smiled at my phone, how I occasionally smelled of coffee or perfume, trivial details twisted into suspicion. My mind tried to process the logic. I laughed, but it came out hollow. Noah, I'm at work most of the day, sitting with a dozen women. That's probably what you're smelling. He looked unconvinced, but for a moment the conversation ended. I should have known it wasn't over. A few days later, I came home to Noah sitting silently on the couch, his eyes heavy, holding his phone like a weapon. What happened? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Vanessa said she saw you at the Italian place downtown with another man holding hands. I froze. Italian place? Holding hands? Then it clicked. My sister Lindsay had been in town for a quick 2-day trip. I had texted Noah from the restaurant, heart emoji included. I pulled out my phone, showed him the messages. See, Lindsay? That's my sister. Dinner before her flight. Noah scrolled, his brows knitting. But Vanessa said, They're lying, I interrupted, frustration flaring. I'm showing you proof. Why would you believe them over me? He didn't answer. His silence was louder than any words. That night, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, heart pounding. I should have felt relief that the truth was out. Instead, a chilling thought crept in. What if he believed them anyway? The next morning, I received a text. Need space to think. Staying with Vanessa for a few days. The words hit me like ice water. Noah, the person I trusted most, chose distance with her friends over communication with me. 3 days passed in a haze. Then came the call. I can't do this anymore, Nora. I can't be with someone I don't trust. My hands shook. Noah, I've never given you a reason not to trust me. Because sometimes love isn't enough. The call ended. I was alone, adrift in a world where 2 years of love evaporated because 3 people decided to test loyalty with zero evidence. My heart was shattered and my mind spun, questioning everything. But beneath the pain, a fire ignited. Betrayal cut deep, but I would not let it define me. There had to be a way to uncover the truth, and I intended to find it. And I did. Late that night, I pulled out my phone, replayed conversations, documented every detail. I would need evidence, and I wouldn't stop until I had it. The first step of my plan, record the truth from Vanessa, Brittany, and Madison themselves. If Noah would not believe me, they would. I pressed record, a quiet click echoing in the empty room. The hunt had begun. The first week after Noah left was a blur. Every text I sent went unanswered. Every ring of my phone made my chest tighten. The betrayal didn't just sting. It burned, deep and relentless. I kept replaying our last conversation. the disbelief in his eyes, the weight of his silence, and the knowledge that he had chosen them over me. I knew I had to act, not out of spite, but out of truth. If he wouldn't see it, someone had to hold them accountable. I started with small steps, quietly gathering evidence, screenshots of their messages, recording their confessions, whenever they bragged about the loyalty test they'd orchestrated. It was a mix of nerves and anger, knowing how sick this game had been. A week later, I had my first concrete recording. Brittany, drunk and laughing, admitted on the phone, "We just wanted to see if she'd choose us over him. That's all. It was funny watching her panic." I almost dropped my phone. Her voice, the casual cruelty, it was surreal. My blood ran cold and hot at the same time. I listened again, slower this time, catching the gleeful undertone of manipulation. They weren't just lying, they were proud of it. I had Noah's attention in my mind. I could almost see his face, the same face I'd loved, now clouded with doubt. Would he ever believe me, even with this proof? Then the accusations got worse. Madison sent emails to Noah's work, claiming harassment, suspicious behavior, and that he was intimidating her. Vanessa and Brittany, of course, were behind the scenes, whispering into his ear, planting seeds of doubt. The audacity of it made my stomach churn. I thought back to the first Italian restaurant incident. I had shown him proof, texts, heart emojis, everything, and yet he still hesitated. He still gave weight to their stories. My throat tightened at the injustice. It was a calculated attack, and they had underestimated me. I had the recordings now, and I wasn't afraid to use them. I couldn't undo the pain Noah had felt, the trust he'd lost in me, but I could expose them. Late one night, I called Trevor, a friend who had always been my anchor. I needed someone to ground me, to help me sort through the chaos. "I can't believe they did this," I said, my voice tight. "They're psychotic. They manipulated everything. Noah believed them over me. Over proof. Over everything." Trevor nodded, listening patiently. "Nora, it's not your fault. You didn't do anything wrong. Their manipulation is the problem. You've got the evidence now. You can show the truth." The thought of confronting Noah with these recordings made my chest ache. What if he still couldn't see it? What if this only confirmed his doubts? But the more I thought about it, the more I realized it wasn't about convincing him anymore. It was about truth standing on its own, regardless of whether he accepted it. I listened to the recordings again, feeling my anger solidify into something precise, almost cold. Vanessa's voice, sharp, arrogant, claiming, "We're protecting her from him." Brittany giggling, "We set it up for months, so she'd believe anything." Madison, almost bored, chiming in, "We wanted to see if she could be manipulated. Turns out she could." The weight of their words crushed me, but also fueled me. I couldn't allow manipulation and lies to dominate the story of my life. I made a plan. First, I would compile everything: messages, recordings, receipts, proof of their lies. Then I would confront Noah, not with rage, but with the undeniable evidence. He had to see it with his own eyes. He had to understand how meticulously they'd orchestrated this betrayal. But I couldn't rush. The timing had to be perfect. If I approached him too soon, he might reject me out of stubbornness, loyalty, or guilt. I needed patience. I needed precision. And above all, I needed the truth to shine on its own, raw and irrefutable. Sitting in my apartment, late into the night, I felt a strange mix of fear, grief, and determination. The betrayal had left a mark, yes, but it had also awakened something in me. I would not be silent. I would not be a victim. And soon, Noah would have no choice but to see the truth. The days after Noah's final text were a haze of quiet devastation. I had loved him. I had trusted him. And yet, he believed them over me. Each glance at my phone, each notification, felt like a small stab, as though the world was mocking the loyalty I had given freely. I replayed every conversation, every moment I tried to prove my innocence. Italian dinners, texted heart emojis, photos with my sister, all dismissed because 3 women decided they had the right to manipulate my life. But the fire inside me refused to die. If Noah wouldn't see the truth, I would expose it anyway. I began collecting every piece of evidence. The recordings were the core. Brittany's drunk admissions of their loyalty test, Vanessa's conspiratorial boasts about orchestrating the restaurant story, Madison's bored admissions that she wanted to see if Noah could manipulate me into doubt. Each play of their voices tightened my jaw with both fury and disbelief. Noah's friends thought this was a game. They laughed at his confusion. They reveled in their power to make me appear guilty, a masterclass in manipulation, but I refused to let it stand. I called Trevor one night, my anchor in the chaos. "They're proud of it," I said, voice trembling with a mix of grief and anger. "They think they won. They think I'm some fool who will beg for forgiveness." Trevor shook his head. "Nora, you're stronger than that. You're documenting everything. You have proof. And when the time is right, Noah will see what they really are." That was the plan. Patience, precision, justice through truth. Then, as if the universe wanted to taunt me further, the harassment escalated. Madison sent a fake email to Noah at work, accusing him of creating a hostile environment, of stalking, of intimidation. Vanessa and Brittany whispered lies, planting doubt, spinning the smallest details into damning evidence. They didn't stop. They had a system, a strategy, and they were relentless. One evening, I sat quietly in my apartment, listening to the recordings again. Brittany, laughing drunkenly. "We just wanted to see if she'd choose us over him. That's all. It was funny watching her panic." Vanessa, sharp and proud. "We're protecting her from him." Madison, bored and bitter. "We wanted to see if she could be manipulated. Turns out she could." Their voices were a dagger in my heart, but they also reminded me of my resolve. I would not be broken. I would not let their lies define me. I plotted the next move carefully. I needed Noah to hear it with his own ears. Undeniable, unaltered, the truth raw and undeniable. He had loved me. I knew he had. But they had poisoned his perception, manipulated his loyalty, and played his trust like a finely tuned instrument. I spent the next week compiling everything. Every message, every recording, every proof of innocence was arranged meticulously. I was ready. When I finally called Noah, my hands trembled, not with fear, but with anticipation. It was time. Time for him to see the truth, not through my words, but through their confessions, their laughter, their own admissions. If he chose to believe me now, that would be his redemption. If he didn't, then at least I had acted with integrity, with courage, and with truth as my shield. Sitting there late at night, I whispered to myself, "They underestimated me. They made a mistake, and I will not forgive betrayal that easily." The morning I decided to meet Noah, my stomach was a storm of nerves and determination. I had rehearsed this moment 1,000 times in my mind, imagining every possible reaction: anger, disbelief, even outright denial. But I knew the truth could not be silenced. Not anymore. I arrived early at the coffee shop near his office, choosing a quiet corner in the back. The smell of roasted coffee beans and warm pastries did nothing to calm the tension in my chest. Every second that passed, I imagined him walking through the door, his familiar stride, the gentle curve of his shoulders, the faint smile that had once made my world feel safe. When he appeared, exhaustion lined his face, and I saw in his eyes a flicker of something I couldn't name. Regret, maybe, or confusion. He didn't even ask for coffee. He just sat, waiting. And I felt the weight of the months of disbelief and betrayal between us press down. "Make this quick," he said, his voice quiet, wary. I pressed play on the recording from my phone. Brittany's drunken voice echoed across the table. "We set it up for months. She'd believe anything. Watching her panic was hilarious." Noah's eyes widened. Then Vanessa's voice, sharp and commanding. "We're protecting her from him." Madison's bored tone followed. "We wanted to see if she could be manipulated. Turns out she could." The three of them, laughing, boasting, proud of the chaos they had caused. Noah's hand trembled slightly as he reached for my phone, listening, watching my face for cues. I held my gaze steady. I would not falter. When the recording ended, the silence was deafening. Noah's lips parted, then closed. He swallowed. This can't be real." I leaned forward, my voice steady but sharp, carrying the pain and betrayal I had bottled up for months. "It is real. They lied, manipulated, and made you doubt me for months. And what's worse, you believed them over me." Tears welled in his eyes, and for a moment I almost wanted to soften, almost wanted him to reach across the table and beg for forgiveness. But I remembered the months of doubt, the silent accusations, the hours of despair. I had loved him, trusted him, and he had chosen them. "Nora," he whispered, voice breaking. I don't know what to believe anymore." I felt a pang of sorrow but refused to let it dominate. "Believe the evidence, Noah. I have never hidden anything from you. But you chose their lies over the truth. 2 years of us, and one word from them was enough to destroy it." He looked down, ashamed. I thought I was protecting myself. Protecting you." Protecting me? By believing strangers over the woman who loved you? By letting them dictate our lives? That's not protection, that's betrayal. My hands tightened around the edge of the table. I came here not for apology. I came here so you can see the truth, and so you can understand what they really are. Noah's lips quivered. I see it now. I'm so sorry. I shook my head, a bitter laugh escaping me. Sorry doesn't undo months of manipulation. Sorry doesn't repair the trust you threw away. You weren't just deceived. You chose to be, and you chose them over me. He stared at me, helpless, and I realized the truth was heavier than either of us could carry in a single conversation. I had done what I had come to do. I had shown him the undeniable truth. The silence stretched, tense and unyielding, until I whispered, almost to myself, I don't know if I can ever trust you again. Noah reached for my hand, but I pulled back. Not yet. Not this time. I need time, I said, voice firm but quiet. Time to breathe, time to process. I've already done the hardest thing, standing up for myself and exposing the truth. The rest is yours to reckon with. He nodded, understanding, pain etched into every line of his face. I understand. Nora, I'm so sorry for everything. I gave him a small, almost imperceptible nod. The fight wasn't over, and the reconciliation, if it ever came, would be slow, cautious. But for now, I had my truth. I had my voice, and I had reclaimed a part of myself that no lie, no betrayal could take away. The days after the confrontation felt like stepping into a strange new world. Noah didn't reach for me, didn't try to sweep everything under the rug. He gave me space, a silent acknowledgement of the betrayal, the months of doubt, and the chaos sown by Vanessa, Brittany, and Madison. The manipulative trio didn't stop, of course. Vanessa posted on social media, warning everyone about controlling men who isolate women from their friends. Half the world cheered, the other half called her out. I watched from a distance, choosing not to engage. These were their consequences, not mine. Brittany's mother called me once, furious, blaming me for her daughter's broken engagement. I listened quietly, explaining the truth calmly. Her actions had consequences, I said. She manipulated, she lied, she owns that. The line went silent on the other end. Sometimes, letting the truth speak for itself is the strongest form of justice. Meanwhile, Noah and I began tentative communication, not immediately romantic, not pressured, but careful and deliberate. Coffee dates, simple conversations, rebuilding a foundation from truth and boundaries, not assumption or manipulation. I made it clear, if we were to move forward, it would be slow. Trust had to be earned again, not demanded. Noah understood. Some days, anger bubbled up. Some days, guilt weighed heavily on him. But we were learning to navigate a new terrain, one shaped not by lies or manipulation, but by honesty and accountability. As for the friends who had orchestrated my torment, reality hit them hard. Their friend group imploded. Madison moved away, Vanessa lost credibility with mutual friends, and Brittany faced the consequences of her lies head-on. Natural justice, in a way, that needed no intervention from me. I discovered a strength in myself I hadn't known before. Betrayal had cut deep, yes, but it had also carved space for resilience, for self-respect, for moral integrity that could not be shaken by falsehoods. I had acted with clarity, without malice, and with courage. That was my victory. Weeks later, Noah and I met for coffee again. There was no grand romantic gesture, no rushed reconciliation, just honesty, just presence. He looked at me with quiet reverence, a mix of regret and hope. I'm trying, he said simply. I know, I replied, and I'm trying too. But we move slowly. Trust isn't something you just pick up. It's rebuilt, and that's okay. Some days were hard. Some nights I remembered the rage, the heartbreak, the disbelief, but each day I felt stronger. I had survived manipulation, betrayal, and the test of false loyalty. I had chosen integrity, and in doing so, I reclaimed myself. And in that quiet reclaiming, I realized something essential. Love that survives lies, manipulation, and doubt isn't just about passion. It's about choice, respect, and resilience. Noah may have faltered, he may have been deceived, but I had endured, and I had emerged not broken, but undaunted. This wasn't the end of the story. It was the start of a new chapter, a chapter in which I knew my worth, honored my boundaries, and understood the true measure of trust. For me, that was enough.